Hello, I am Pat Gillum Sams, the founder and CEO of the Sister Covenant. What is the Sister Covenant? It is a platform for purposed and powerful women to empower and inspire other powerful women of color. Black women are resilient. We nurture the world, our families, our spouses, our children, our communities, the boardroom, and everything in between. But who fills our cup? I often am reminded of when we fly, we're told to put our oxygen mask on first. And that is what the Sister Covenant is all about. It's a safe space for authentic dialogue between sisters, my friends, your friends, all of our friends, coming together for a time such as this. Join me Sunday mornings, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, first, third, and fifth Sundays for the Sister Covenant, a safe space to laugh a lot, cry a little, and fill your cup. Good morning. Great Sunday morning. And welcome to the Sister Covenant and welcome to October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We are going to have a very impactful yet intimate conversation this morning, or conversations with some beautiful, beautiful women who are sharing their journey, their survivor, their warrior stories around breast cancer. But before we get there, I want to again, as always, it is amazing that we are in October in 2022 and we are coming up on our 2-year anniversary of the Sister Covenant. And if you remember my story, it was sitting in an imaging center in August of 2020, right after my round number birthday, where I got my routine mammography and got a call back the next day to say, we see a little something suspicious. Could you come back in? And that's where my journey began. And that's where I got a diagnostic mammography and had to go in every 6 months thereafter for 2 years, with this being the end of that, and thinking I was good when I had that call again that said not only did I need to come in and get the diagnostic mammogram, but I needed to have a biopsy. So we're going to talk to some women about their journeys. Mine, thank God, has turned out well so far, but we're going to keep an eye on it. And that is what we're talking to you about today. Loving yourselves, taking care of yourselves and those you love around you, even those men in your life, and making sure you do what's necessary so you can stay healthy and whole. Before we get there, I want to thank you. Thank you for being a part of our Sister Covenant journey for almost 2 years. Thank you for purchasing your merchandise. We're going to come back with bigger and bolder merchandise in our 3rd year. of the Sister Covenant, but you can be a part of our circle. So please join us. Join us by joining Facebook on your phone or your computer. Search the Sister Covenant, find the groups tab, click on the groups titled The Sister Circle, click Join Group. Your request will be accepted. That is all you need to do. We know that we are still in a pandemic, but we are resilient and we are living life. And that's what these sister covenants are all about: educating, inspiring, and helping us to live our best lives. But to do that, we still must be visual and we still must be determined to do what we need to do to educate all of our community, those we love and even those we don't, about getting vaccinated. My husband and I just got our third booster. So 5 shots, y'all, 5 so far. So join our challenge, our 25 challenge, by posting a picture or video on why you got vaccinated using the hashtags Powerful Women Get Vaccinated. Together we win. Tag at the Sister Covenant and 3 friends. We must be vigilant in this effort as well as all our other health efforts. Now, I want to thank all of our supporters. To be a part of our sister circle, you don't have to be a sustaining sister or a sister's keeper, but we thank those that are. If you would like to be a sister's keeper or sustaining sister, please contact us at keepers@thesistercovenant.com for more information. Now, I would like to thank all of my sisters, those that have been my ride or die for 20, 30, or 40 years. Our sustaining sisters, right there on the screen, you see who they are. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you to the moon and back. And of course, our sisters keepers, those ladies that, again, are my ride or die women of stature, women of gifts of their own, like Brenda Jackson, who is a New York Times best-selling author, Melissa Fulmore Hardwick, who is the founder and CEO of Brown Girls in the Boardroom. Sister Cord, Sonia Jackson Miles, who is a beautiful, beautiful sister, doing some amazing things for young girls and women around bullying. Of course, my dear friend, Dr. Lorraine Polite Clark, with Today's Dentistry and Sutel Dental. I want to thank them and certainly the love of my life and of my eye, the Legacy League, and of course, the Legacy Group. Thank all of our sisters keepers for being a part of keeping us here in front of you so we can continue to empower women all around the world. Now, I am over the moon excited. I had the opportunity earlier this week, just over the last couple of days, to sit down and have some intimate conversations with some girlfriends, women that are warriors that have gone through their own breast cancer journey. And I want to share those with you. The first one is with my dear friend of 40 years, no stranger to the Sister Covenant, Dr. Barbara Darby. We sat down just last night in her beautiful home, and I want to share that conversation with you now. I am so, so excited to welcome back, no stranger to the Sister Covenant, Dr. Barbara Darby. I just affectionately call her my big sis, Barbara. And as we are in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we are educating ourselves on the importance of self love. And self love is being familiar with our bodies and making sure we are healthy and those around us are healthy. We want to have this conversation with those we love. A lot of times we keep things silent because we don't want to share, but sharing is important because that is how we love on one another. So we can support one another, but also we can educate one another so I can help the next sister be well. And that's what this sister, my big sis, is doing. So I want to welcome Barbara back to the Sister Covenant so she can share her story of triumphing over tragedy, or better yet, her journey through breast cancer. Welcome back to the Sister Covenant, Barbara.
Hello, little sister Pat.
And we are
We're going to carry that
we're
theme
going to carry that
forward. Yes.
forward. Very good. But we are here together and we are in your living room and
That's right.
we are chatting. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to talk with us and to share your journey with my audience. So again, we don't have to go through who she is. Her bio lives forever on our website because you've been with us so many times and you've imparted so much wisdom. But just a year ago, a little better than a year and a half ago, May 2021, you probably got a conversation with your doctor that none of us really want to have. So do you mind sharing that experience and the beginnings of that journey with us?
Absolutely, Pat. And first of all, I want to thank you for covering this very important topic during Breast Cancer Awareness Month because all of us need to be knowledgeable
That's right.
about the disease. But yes, May of 2021, I went to buy a new car, actually. And that afternoon, I had an appointment for my annual mammogram. It was just time for that. And I remember having to wait for the car to be brought to the dealership. And I said to the associate, I have an appointment to get my mammogram, and I'm going to go do that and come back. John was with me, so we went over to Mayo and I got my mammogram and came back and finished my purchase of that car and came home, only to get a call the next day that they needed to check me again because they saw something. And this was not the first time I had had that happen, so I was not concerned. I went back the next day and they repeated the mammogram and had an ultrasound and then invited me into this consultation room.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you go into the consultation room, you kind of know what's going on. So I went in and the doctor, all at Mayo, very nice, very professional, did share that they saw a lesion in my breast and would want to do a biopsy because that was the determining factor. So he said, don't worry about it. You know, it's going to be all right. Nothing to worry about. And I will not forget those words because right at that moment, I knew that I was beginning another phase of my faith journey with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that journey requires that you are in tune to what His Holy Spirit brings to you. And the words of that doctor were part of God saying to me right at the start, you are going to be all right. And there is a prayer that I pray each day. And some of the words in that prayer say, God has not allowed anything to come into my life that has not been sifted through his love first. And those words were, again, very important in this faith journey. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my left breast. It was early on. They did the biopsy, did all of the things they needed to do, and made sure I understood, what needed to be done. The one thing I knew as a nurse who taught nursing for many years, and one of the topics that I lectured on to students was on oncology, on cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew full well what was happening in terms of the cellular changes in my breast, and that those cellular changes would accelerate if left untouched. And so there was no question in my mind that I wanted it out.
Mm-hmm.
If that were possible, certainly we want it removed. And it was early enough that it was surgically removed. I had to have 15 radiation treatments because there was no involvement of my axillary nodes and no signs of metastasis once they did the surgery.
Praise
I did
the
not.
Lord.
Yes, thank God for that. I did not have to have chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being asked by my pastor who had had surgery, and he asked me if I would do the Sunday message at church. And I talked about the fact that when I got the diagnosis, I did not cry. I did not say, why me?
Mm-hmm.
I understood, why not me? Who would I give this to
Mm-hmm.
besides me? I couldn't think of a soul that I would. It was me. And so it was what I would have to journey with. But my faith has made all the difference. I thank God that he's gone before, making this crooked path straight, and given the strength and the fortitude with my husband, John, my daughter, Tamara, friends like you, prayer warriors who I contacted and said, this is what I've learned. I want your prayers for my strength as I go through this journey, just so that I will be that person who truly will rely on faith as I move forward, because I don't know what the future is going to be. All I know is that I'm God's and he's promised to be with me. So that's been the journey.
Barbara, I think as your friend and someone who has always admired you're anyone that knows Barbara Darby, Dr. Darby, knows you're a woman of faith, and that you're just a gracious class act. But I think, to God be the glory, but I think this journey, to your point, when God gave you this opportunity, it elevated you, because I didn't see you miss a beat in your giving of your time, your treasure, or any of that.
I'm crazy.
Well, that's another subject. It's another podcast, and we both fall into that bucket. But what I'm saying is triumph over tragedy. You're a living testament to God is with me, and if he's with me, who can be against me? You didn't stop. It was like it was something you had to deal with. You did not deal with it. You didn't act like it didn't exist, but you did what you needed to do to take care of yourself, but you continue to take care of others and you continue to move forward.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that sometimes we do when we are faced with something difficult, something tragic, something unwanted, is that we turn inward and we begin to feel sorry for ourselves or think that we might be the only ones so affected. But I've learned again through my faith walk that when you face tragedy, when you face difficulty, the best thing to do is to look outward, is to do for others, to continue to live and not to retreat and solely focus on your situation. And so that has been what I have chosen to do, to continue to focus outward. And when you are helping others and trying to make a difference,
It's bigger than you.
it is bigger than you. And I remember, Pat, the day that I had surgery, and it was a surgery that I was able to come home the same day. I came home, and of course, my family almost sat on me to make sure that I stayed, relaxed and wouldn't do too much. But the next morning, I got up and I walked 3 miles. I normally walk 6, but I walked 3 because I knew I shouldn't overdo it. So I did walk 3 miles, felt great. I was not sick. I had a diagnosis that needed to be addressed, but I was not sick. I was not feeling ill. And so we must keep pushing forward, is the way I deal with it. Keep pushing forward.
My pastor said some years ago when he had a diagnosis of prostate cancer, he said, cancer didn't have him. He may have had cancer, but
Amen.
cancer didn't have him. And that's what I
Amen.
saw in you, because I called you that morning to check on you and you were walking.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay.
It's mind. It's mind, and you
Yeah.
just have to think positively and keep living. It is not a death sentence.
right.
And I know when people hear that word, that's often the first thing that comes to mind. But cancer is not a death sentence. And so I say to women, get your mammograms if you are at that age where it is recommended. Do your self-breast examination monthly. And I use the Buddy 12 on channel 12 as my reminder each month. But one of the things about my cancer was not palpable. So I would not have felt it even doing my self-breast examination. It was that annual mammogram that showed it, and I was just thankful to the Lord that my mammogram fell at a time when the tumor was yet small and had not extended into other areas, of my breast. Because just imagine if it had happened maybe a month after I'd had my mammogram, it would have been
That's right. Another year,
another
maybe.
year before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
God is good. I give him praise. I give him thanks. And I am living for him. And that's my story.
Well, I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you for sharing your story because, as we said, sometimes we don't do that. We feel like it's private or it's my business or I don't. We just are just closed, and I don't think a closed hand can receive the blessing.
Amen.
And you are so blessed on so many levels.
Praise God.
And you are a blessing. You just celebrated 50 years of service in this community. And I just say you're going to have another 50 plus multiplied because of the spirit and the person that you are. So
Thank you,
I am
Dad.
just so blessed to have you in my life. And
I, having you in my life, you give me that energy. It's like, oh, my goodness, I got to keep up with Pat.
well, we keep up with one another, but I love you, my friend, and I thank
Love
you.
you
And
too.
I am so glad that you loved yourself enough
Yes.
to take care of yourself,
Absolutely.
take care of the tatas, right?
Yeah, got to. Hey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat.
Barbara.
Thank you. Love you. Love you much.
She is so beautiful. And I think it's so important, like we talked about. We keep things private, and some things should be private, just between you and your spouse or whomever you trust. But this subject is not to be kept private. We have to share. We have to share and encourage and hold hands, cry with, and be on that team, the team of eradicating this dreaded disease. But until we can do that, the team of support, love, encouragement, and knowledge. Knowledge is power only if you use it. Only if you use it. So thank you, Barbara, for sharing your story with us. Now, I am over the moon excited to welcome back, and not welcome back because Dr. Anita is a part of the Sister Covenant, but life happens. And so we are excited to have our medical expert back with us talking about this important subject of breast cancer awareness. So, welcome, Dr. Anita, into the studio, as well as our special guest, a dear friend of some 30 years of her. I want to share the conversation we had just earlier this week. So, welcome, Anita. Come join us. Come join me in the Sister Covenant studio. Hello, my dear.
Hi there. I'm so happy to be back, and I've missed you so much.
I miss you so much. I don't want to get emotional.
I know.
It is such a privilege to be on this platform with you, especially talking about breast cancer awareness. How important is it? In your practice, Anita, how much of this do you focus on?
Well, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but we know that African American women die more often from breast cancer. So I happen to see a lot of it. We deal with it on a regular basis. I have employees who've been diagnosed with it, and woo to survivors, over 3.8 million in the United States. I told my employer today, my breast cancer survivor, that I was her, so I'm very proud of her. But definitely, practice, we deal with it quite regularly. And it's a very important topic to address, especially in our community. So I applaud you, Pat, for bringing this forth during this time so that we can educate the community about breast cancer and encourage the survivors, encourage those who are currently dealing with it, and also to honor those who battled breast cancer as well and lost their fight. So I'm here to help and contribute in any way that I can this morning. So thank you.
Well, we have a very special guest, and we know one that's near and dear to your heart. So, can you introduce her?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure, Pat. I'd like to introduce to the Sister Covenant April Shows. April is a mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, a General Motors executive, but most of all, she is a survivor and a woman of God. So I'd like to introduce to you April Shows.
Hello, April. Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing well. It's
Good.
an honor to be here.
It's an honor for us to have you. Thank you for coming on today. So, you and Anita, y'all have been girls, sisters, if you will, for some 30 plus years. The story that I was told, you met on the highest of seven hills, FAMU, Florida A&M University, back some years ago. Y'all tell us about that friendship that has, just survived. I'll say survived the test of time as we have gotten, how do we say, better with age. Your friendship, I know, has as well. So tell us about that.
Sure. I met Anita my freshman year at Florida A&M University. And I remember I got there and my father and I, we were coming up the steps of McGuinn Hall. And there was a young lady sitting on the steps by herself. And that young lady happened to be Anita. Fast forward 30 something plus years, and we are still the best of friends. She is just an amazing woman of God. I call her one of my best friends, call her sister. I call her one of my prayer warriors. And we've just been there for each other through different seasons in our lives. And I just am thankful for her and thankful that God put her in my life.
So, April, we're talking about breast cancer awareness, right? This is October. We all have our pink on, or our fuchsia, different shades of pink. And you've been so gracious to not just today on the Sister Covenant, but over the past 7-8 years, share your story. So, Anita, I want to bring you in, obviously, as a medical doctor, but also as April's friend. So in 2014, you felt something that did not quite feel right. April, if I'm not mistaken, was the month, right? That was the month that you had that discovery. So talk to us about your breast cancer journey, and Anita chime in as her friend that I'm sure she called as her prayer warrior as well as a physician.
Okay, so 2014, if I go back 8 years ago, it probably was in the month of April, and I had been in one of the best shapes in my life, I guess. I was working out routinely and, actually running some 5K races. And I remember going down to Florida, and I felt something, and I don't know, again, I think it's Holy Spirit, God. I just felt something and was tempted to feel that area. And I thought I felt something. I checked with my husband and asked him if he felt it, and he did. So I remember coming back home and scheduling an appointment with my OBGYN. So that was in May. And then I remember she scheduled an ultrasound at that time. And then right after that, actually it was a mammogram on site. And then we went and had an ultrasound the same exact day. And then after that, they scheduled me for a biopsy. So a little bit nerve-wracking at the time. And then I recall going and taking the biopsy. And then my doctor, unbeknownst to me, was actually out of town. So I didn't get the results for almost 3 weeks. And I was thinking to myself, oh, it's nothing. If it was something urgent, then they would have called me. And then I received the news. And the day that I received the news, I had actually taken off work to go to a conference at my church. And the message was, I will not be a victim. I will not be distracted, and I will be strong in my faith. At the break, after that meeting, I had 3 missed calls from my doctor. I remember calling the going into the waiting area of the sanctuary, and then I called her back, and she said, the news is not good. So I immediately had a few friends there with me. I cried for a moment. And then I said, oh, I need to go home and tell my husband. I immediately shared their information, and that was where my journey began. I got in to see a surgeon right away. Then the process began. I went and saw a radiologist. I went and saw an oncologist. And basically the treatment plan was that I was going to have 5 months of chemo to shrink the tumor first. Then in December, I actually had surgery to remove my right breast. After that, in 2015, I ended up going through radiation. I decided to take a year off, and then in 2016 decided to go and have reconstructive surgery. And at that point, I had been through a lot, and but I was just blessed with my support of my husband, support of friends and family. And actually, Anita called me the week I was going in to have chemo. She was here for a wedding, and I shared with her the news, and then she said, "Oh my goodness." And at that point, she prayed with me. I remember that vividly. And then I shared with her, and she connected me with some other friends. And I had some prayer warriors called Sister Chat Book Club, and they prayed me through. I didn't even know any of these ladies, but just the overwhelming love and support from Anita, the Sister Chat sisters, and my friends and family were just overwhelming. And when I look back, I just am amazed at God and what he has done in my life. I remember early on him saying, "This is not about you. This is about who you help along the way." And once I knew that, I just knew that God had something more in store for me, and he wanted me to share with others. And so as I look back, I'm just thankful for his mercy, his grace, and I just thank him every day just for life. I knew I had to be strong during the process, because I wasn't only fighting for my life myself, but I was also fighting for my life for my husband and my two boys. So that is sort of, I guess, the story as quickly as I can tell it. But God is good, and I'm just thankful.
April, one of the things that struck me most, thank you for that. That is just beautiful, and the way you told it is beautiful. But one of the things that struck me most when we spoke was you said people kept asking you, what stage is it? What stage is it? And you said, I never wanted to really know the stage, because for me, I believe God. I trusted God from the very beginning. Your faith was 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 greater than the fear of whatever the stage was. And I think you shared that the diagnosis was something that maybe usually isn't as treatable, but that never wavered your faith.
Right. So I was diagnosed with triple negative. And that's typically a little bit more difficult to treat. And again, it was more aggressive as well. As I mentioned, I probably didn't ask what stage it was, but a lot of people around me asked, "What stage is it? What stage is it?" Or they saw triple negative and they got nervous. Well, I got my yearly mammogram, so I didn't think that it could be anything from maybe having a mammogram in October, November of the previous year till, April, May timeframe. But it ended up being stage 3. And I really remember I wasn't asking at the beginning, because I told my boys we caught it early, and, it's okay. Mom's going to be fine. And both my husband and I touched and agreed, and we believe God. But I recall asking one day, just because I wanted to share how good God was. And I remember putting it in my journal that, they say it's stage 3, but I know you're able. And I just really trusted him. And again, knowing that it wasn't about me, that he had something better in store for me. And so what the enemy had for bad, he turned it around and turned it into good. So, yeah. But the other thing is that and during my diagnosis, they said that it wasn't picked up is because they said it was more gray when they looked at it. So it's basically not black and white. So it was very difficult for them to see it in the previous images. And so that was one of the other challenges that I had, and why it may not have been picked up in a mammogram.
So, Anita, tell us about what you see. Someone like April, who is doing her breast exams and getting her mammograms done routinely. But yet, by the time they identified it, it was already at an advanced stage. Talk to us about uh, early detection and and all that we should be aware of, even genetics, how it plays into what we should be looking for and how aggressive should we be. Are there age factors? Just throw up on us and tell us, what is it that we need to know?
No problem. So first, let me just say I'm very proud of April. I'm touched and was there through the journey. So very proud of her. And she actually encouraged me. I noticed that her faith grew during this, and so did mine. And Pat, if you'll just allow me just for a second, I remember her husband, and it really broke me down when he said that his quarterback was out of the game and he didn't know what to do. So just very proud of her and where she is and how she has survived, thrived, and is a testimony to share, and has a testimony that she shared with us. So let me put back on my medical cap and wipe my tears. So 1 out of every 8 women get breast cancer in the United States. And one important thing for Black women to know that we get it more often from the ages of like 30 to 39. So under the age of 40, Black women are more likely to get breast cancer than other races. But after the age of 40, white women are more likely to get it, but Black women are more likely to die from it. So, in speaking of April's case, one of the most important things is what we call breast awareness. It's making sure that you are aware of what you should do, what your risks are, number one. Making sure you know what your so that if you lump, like how April lump, a lot of times patients will find their own lumps. Their mates will find the lumps as well. So breast awareness is important. We know the importance of early detection, so we still recommend making sure you get the mammograms. Now, in my practice, I start mammograms on my patients at the age of 40. My demographics are mostly African American women, so I make sure that we start at 40 because I know that population is more likely to die from breast cancer. Regarding genetics, so let's talk a little bit about the triple negative. I'm glad that April brought that up, even though she didn't really want to know, and definitely believe God, and I believe God with her, and I know that He healed her. But for triple negative breast cancer, Black women are 2 times more likely to have triple negative breast cancer. And also another type called inflammatory breast cancer, which is rare but extremely aggressive. So we're more likely to get that. For the triple negative one, April already mentioned, it's harder to treat. And we'll have it. Women are younger, like April was younger when she was diagnosed. So definitely getting your mammograms. Plus minus the authorities kind of argue as to whether or not you do your self-breast exam. But in my opinion, I want to make sure that women are aware of what their breasts feel like, and if there's an extra lump or there is a lump, that they find it. If you have questions, make sure you talk to your physician, and definitely knowing your risk factors for breast cancer, which we can talk a little bit about that, Pat. I don't want to kind of go over time, but being obese. So if you're overweight, get started, exercise, not diet, but meal planning to make sure that you lose some weight. Some stuff we can't change, like our age, we can't change. We can't change the fact that we're a female. Women are more likely to get breast cancer than men, but Black men are more likely to get breast cancer than white men, even though it's rare. Making sure you don't smoke. Making sure that you do know your genetics. So knowing your family history is really important. And then we have other things that contribute to risk for breast cancer, which may include the age that you started your period, the age that you went through menopause, whether or not you breastfed or not, which if you breastfed, you're more likely not to have it compared to somebody who did not breastfeed. Somebody who started her period younger is more at risk. A woman who went through menopause at a later age is more at risk. And obesity, like we talked about, is more at risk. So those are some of the risk factors. Also, not having any babies. So a woman without any children is more at risk of having breast cancer. This is just such an important topic. And then the other thing, which we didn't even touch on, a little bit the genetics. So we may talk about, and we don't have time for this, I can tell you, why Black women tend to die more often from breast cancer than the other races. And it's complicated. And so genetics, of course, play a role, but a smaller role than some of the socioeconomic reasons, which we could talk about all day long. So access to care, mistrust of healthcare providers. That's why it's so important to have a culturally sensitive doctor. Access to having good health insurance matters. Making sure you have access to a facility that has state of the art mammograms. So it's just the social determinants of health, where you live, work, and play plays a role in how we're able to treat breast cancer. And sometimes we don't treat it. We treat it late. It's more aggressive when we find it. So kind of saddens me in a way, but we try to make strides every day in our communities to make a difference in women who have breast cancer. So hopefully I said it really fast, but hopefully that was some good information.
No, that was excellent, excellent, Anita. And I just want to share, and you and I have talked about this, and we met right around this time 2 years ago. I was sitting in the imaging center waiting for the results of my diagnostic mammogram, because with dense breasts, they can't see as well. So they had started saying, you got to come in and get this diagnostic after the routine. And I was sitting there and thinking, oh my gosh, if this is where God has me, and if truth be told, that was the impetus for the Sister Covenant, that I felt we really needed to elevate this subject matter and our voices. But to the point that you just made, Anita, I couldn't feel it. It wasn't anything I could feel. It was calcification. So for every 6 months, I would get these diagnostic mammograms. And then this year was my first year to now go back to routine mammograms. And I did that. And sure enough, April, like you, I saw the missed call. And I got the call this past August where I had to go in and do the diagnostic again. And then the very next day, I got another call. And when you see that call come in, they're not calling to chat with you. And I had to go and get a biopsy done. And thank God it was nothing. But what do women do who don't have that level of care or may not have the insurance in place to pay for it, because it's not cheap?
Yeah, it's not. And the more advanced it is, the more expensive it's going to be. Fortunately, you don't have insurance, you don't have the money because of, where you work, where you live. And then so the ability to afford the care is it just creates more of a problem. And so this is something, like I said, we're trying to address every day, and it's so much bigger than all of us. I mean, it reaches wide, and things need to change. So thank you for this platform, because just kind of getting the word out for people who can vote and make a difference in the whether or not, healthcare is available for more of the population in our states. So complicated issue for sure. I wanted to say one other thing regarding dense breasts. So women who have dense breasts are more at risk for developing breast cancer. So it's really important, if you've been told that you have dense breasts, make sure you request a breast ultrasound. Really important to do so as well.
And Anita, I've recently read, and it's been more publicized, that I've always been asked, well, anyone in your family, your mother, your sister, breast cancer? No one in my family. So in my mind, I'm not at risk. But what I'm now understanding, if your father had prostate cancer, if your mother may have had ovarian cancer, my mother passed of uterine cancer, all of these may add to the genetic predisposition. Am I correct in that?
No, absolutely. So it's really important to know your family history. That you bring home such an important point. And unfortunately, in our community, in our families, we have secrets. We don't really tell. Nobody knows what happened to mama. Well, guess what? We need to stop that. And we need to start talking to each other about our family history, our family health history, so that we can know. We go to a physician and we can say, look, mama had this, daddy had this, grandma had this. And remember, if you So we can talk, yes, if there is a history of cancers in the family, absolutely put you at a genetic predisposition for developing other cancers. If you've had one cancer, it also puts you at risk for developing another. And then the other thing to kind of keep in mind is just if you have a first degree relative, especially regarding breast cancer, like, and first degree relatives are mother, sister, daughter who had breast cancer, that puts you, one relative puts you at like a 2-time increased risk of developing breast cancer. But if you have 2 relatives, first degree relatives that is, and have had breast cancer, it puts you at a 3-time more likely risk of developing breast cancer. So no longer the hush hush, can't tell you what mama had and everything's a secret. We got to start sharing with one another what our health histories are.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anita. April, you, in my mind, personify triumph over tragedy. You know, you could have just gone into your own corner and say, hey, I'm good. But you are a breast cancer survivor, 8 years, right? 8 years cancer free, but you didn't just go away and say, I'm good. I'm good. You have been a champion. You've been a warrior. You have led the effort on the breast cancer awareness front, and you've raised dollars around that for others. So tell us about all of your efforts and your ministry, the Pink Box. Is that what it's called? Tell us about what you've been doing over the last 7 years.
Sure. So in 2014, the first year of my diagnosis, I had walked for the very first year as a survivor in the Oakland County American Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. So that's put on by the American Cancer Society. So that first year after walking, I said, what else can I do moving forward? So the following year, in 2015, I decided to volunteer for the walk. And then in 2016, I decided to join the event leadership team and then form my own personal team that walks and raises money for American Cancer Society. I think it's so important. That experience has exposed me to so many other survivors or people that have lost loved ones. I myself lost a father to pancreatic cancer, and know, throughout this journey, I've met people and been in place with people that actually weren't survivors. They ended up passing away from this disease. But also early on, God had given me this idea after, I think, going in and watching people from chemo, and sometimes you don't have anyone there with you to go to your treatments, or you don't, you just see the sad faces. And he gave me this idea, which I call the Pink Box, but it's definitely a God idea. And it was just a way to bless ladies as they were going through their journey, to just keep them encouraged, maybe bring a smile to their face. So I just started buying these pink boxes and then just filling them with goodies. So it may be one of the things that I always put in there are healing scriptures. I was given healing scriptures like when I was going through my journey, and I would confess them over myself every single day. So I include those in the box. I typically like including a journal just because it was so important during my journey to journal. And when I go back, I just thank God for he's just amazing. And I can go back and look at the very beginning. So it's just always nice to go back and just look at what he's done. I might put a candle in there. I'll put thank you cards in there and just different goodies. So every box is different. None of them are the same. And then just a little note, just encouraging them. There were, like I said, there were so many people that God put in my path through my journey. I had one young lady that had just been diagnosed with the same thing a year before. And I remember she was a coworker, IMing her at work. And she was like, meet me at this conference room. And she just gave me a big hug. And then just so many people along the way that have sown seed into my life. And I just felt the need to just give back and just, again, bring a smile to their face and encouraging them during that difficult season. And, everybody has their own journey. No journey is the same. You may have a different treatment plan, but I just encourage people to just stay in the faith, trust God. And attitude is so important. It's a difficult time. And I just think that, again, the way that you deal with it can have a positive or a negative impact on, the end. And so those are things. And again, definitely get your yearly mammograms. If something doesn't feel good, then I just encourage you. I mean, I've talked to people that actually didn't have anything going on with their breasts. They just felt like something wasn't right, and they ended up being diagnosed. So again, just, keep the faith, make sure you're getting your exams, make sure you know your bodies and you trust your bodies. But yeah, so those are the key things that I would say, and attitude is everything.
April, you are a blessing. I know you're a blessing to your family. You certainly are a blessing to other women. Any last comments, anything to that woman out there that may have not gotten that diagnosis yet, but it's coming? Anything you would say to her, if you could?
Yeah, that you're a warrior, you're a fighter. Don't don't succumb to what the enemy wants you to think, and just know that God has you. Remember whose child you are. You are a child of God, and I just want to encourage you. I mean, 8 years later, I can say I was a stage 3 breast cancer survivor, and it's only because of him, but it's also because of the friends, the family, the support that I had from so many different people. Just again, knowing that God was working behind the scenes, orchestrating things. Every day isn't a good day. I mean, I might have shared all the positives, but the hair loss, your hair will grow back. When they stuck that first needle for my chemo in my arm, and tears just rolled down my eyes. But I trusted God during the whole thing. And again, it wasn't really about me. It's about this platform. It's about making sure other people know about their stories, that they're doing what they need to take care of themselves. And, again, as Anita said, diet and, exercise and all the things that our doctors tell us we need to do, we should be doing. And then again, just know your body. And if something doesn't feel right, go get it checked out. And I know a lot of people have concerns about mammograms. Oh, it's going to hurt, or different things. That's not really true. So it's not worth your life. So go get it checked out.
Ladies, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We can't talk about this subject enough. We need to have more sister circles. We need to have more friend circles. We need to send more affirmations and information out there, because you said it best, April. None of it is worth your life. Thank you.
Some resources.
Yes.
Okay, just real quick, take me 2 seconds. American Cancer Society, their website, Susan G. Komen website has a lot of great information. You can find a lot of the great statistics on African American cancer on the American Cancer Society website. And then also just want to mention your own physician, healthcare provider is a great resource. And then also, I think mental health is really important as well for someone that's suffering with a cancer diagnosis. So making sure you have a good therapist also would make a difference. So that's it.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Love you. Wow. Wow. Like I said, we could choose, and that's the word I will use. You can choose to do nothing, say nothing, sit in a corner and say, okay, I'm good. I don't want to get involved. But April is a testament and a definition of triumph over tragedy. She did not let a diagnosis define her, even when it didn't look in our sight, in man's sight, as good. She continued to not waver in her faith, just like Barbara, and she got the answers she needed so she could take care of the diagnosis, but the essence of it is the diagnosis never took control of her. I love her spirit, and she is a newfound friend. Sisters, as always, take care of yourself, love yourselves, and love the temple that you're in, and share your stories because they are rich. As always, we are excited to be on this journey together. We have lots more mountains to climb, and we are going to continue to live our best life. We're going to be resilient, and we are going to live to tell the story. So, with that, as always, be bold, be brilliant, be brave. You are all so beautiful, my sisters. Please get your breast examinations, push your doctors and make sure you get the proper mammograms and diagnostic studies done, and remain vigilant and be blessed.